and then we have a web page. Now, when you navigate, so there's a box on TryHackMe, and there are a series of notes to pay attention to. So the box does not respond to pings, so ICMP has been disabled, and that is one thing that I have to do. And then the author, Daxter, made some notes for us too. There are different ways to root or become an administrator or NT system authority on this box. So this box actually got an upgrade. So if you initially solved the box, you might have had access in a different way. And then later on, it was upgraded or to fix the bug. And then you have to find another way to solve it. So we know we have port 80 opened and then RDP running on this target. So 2 ports for now. I think that should be it. So we should navigate to we'll navigate to port 80 on this box and then see what we have. So this is a standard IIS welcome page. There is nothing here of interest. So immediately we should just begin web enumeration. Just see if we can get any path on this page. So we can use GoBuster to try to enumerate this web page to see if there are any other hidden pages. And of course, we'll find an interesting one by the name of this target called Retro. So when we navigate to Retro, we can further enumerate and see what we have on this page. So the results should be in very soon. And okay, so our Nmap scan completed. We have some information here that might be of interest. We could just add this to our host, our DNS file, so Retro Web, and we know that we are running RDP. So it's Windows, we will get a graphical user interface if we are able to get credentials to properly authenticate. So we see that there is a path called Retro here. So we will navigate to Retro and then see what we have there. My connection is a bit slow today, so it is quite crawling. So from there, we see the page title, Retro Fanatics. So a web page created for people who love their retro games. So if you were young and played Tron and then Pac-Man and all that games, Doom, yeah, this page is for you. So when we come here, we can further enumerate this web page to see if we can just deep dive further into this page if there are anything that we should be mindful of. So just let this run at the background. And then we come back to our page and then see what's here. So the post, it looks like a regular post. We can check the source of this page. And looking at this, what should stand out for you is try to see what technologies are being run on this page. There are extensions that I've installed. This is Wapalizer. That is good. If you don't have it, just check it out. It tells you the technologies that are running on some web pages or websites. So up now, we just see that there's WordPress running. It is running PHP at this version. And we know that we are on a Windows server. All right, so that is a good information to have at the start. So we can go ahead, yes, and this also just reinforces the idea that, yes, there is a WordPress application or CMS being served by this website. So That is good to know. Now, the next thing that we have to do is to explore the websites. If there are anything that's, let's go to the very end and see the beginning of posts by, so we have a username. So we have Wade. That is something that we should pay attention to, acknowledge. So there's the hello world. That means like the first page that Wade posted. And Wade might be the webmaster or the web admin, the owner of this page. Now, for websites, you should try and then click on everything that you see. And there are some recent comments by Wade that we should try look at. Okay. And there is also a login. So you know how websites, looking at my left bottom of the screen, left corner of my screen, you can see that the login resolves to wp-login.php. So we can just open that in a new tab. So, and see that, yeah, that is the login page for this WordPress application. So we know a username, Wade. We don't have a password yet. So we just keep on looking around. We can use different techniques. We can just try brute forcing. That means we can use Hydra to just try and then use a username list to brute force. We have a username already. We just have to try and then just guess, use an application to automatically guess the password from our use list of our username list based on the combination. So Wade and then any of the combinations we have in our username list. All right, now this is the first thing that we see, Ready Player One. Now Wade is saying that this is his favorite book of all time. I know how people get sentimental. And remember, this is retro. Retro, we're talking about nostalgia, taking us back to the 80s, 90s. And he made this page about his favorite book, Ready Player One. It is also a movie. I think you should check it out if you haven't seen Ready Player One. It's actually dope. So there is an interesting comment here on Ready Player One where Wade says that, hey, I'm leaving myself a note here just in case I forget how to spell it. And we have something interesting here, which we can assume this is a name of a character in the book or something. And once he's nostalgic about it, Parzival, we can try and then see if Wade is very sentimental enough. And then we try that as a password to see if we can log in to Wade's website. And that should actually give us access to this web page. That is one thing you're not supposed to do. You don't put your password on sticky notes that is hanging by your computer screen. You don't put your password out there on your social media posting and all that. That it doesn't make any sense. Now, we have access to the website. Basically, we are the web admin now. We have admin access to this WordPress page. What you should try to do always when it comes to WordPress. Now, looking at the version here, we see that there are updates that Wade hasn't done. That is very poor judgment on his side. There is the version of WordPress running, which should be very, very old. So that means there can be vulnerabilities for this. And what mostly you should endeavor to do is to change when it comes to teams. Now, teams allow you, basically the teams actually run the pages of this WordPress website. So what you can do is to just make changes to these teams, run that, and then probably we might be able to spawn a shell. So we can just look at any of the teams. So these are the team files here, .php and all that. You can just insert your web shell in there to get your first access. So there is the main index templates. That means the main website, the main web page here, where we can try and then modify this because we have admin access. And then when we are done, we can update the file. So quickly, we can just open ref shells and then try and get a PHP reverse shell. So we can just insert that into this template, save it, and then run the web page, and then see if we can get a callback. So my internet is terrible. I apologize for that. This evening, it's been very bad. This is my IP address. I want to be listening on this port. And what I want is Windows Reverse Shell. And I can grab this from Ivan Cishek. And for the shell, I just need CMD command prompt, and that will be it. You can just grab everything. But because we are already in a PHP template, the headers and then the footer for PHP code, we can ignore it from this page. And then we can get in here and then insert it into the main page template. So we have that. We see my IP address. When the shell is being spawned, I should be listening on this IP. Now I can go ahead and just save this. And this is terrible. When this happens, you must know that there's disaster that is happening when someone gets access to your back end of your website. So this is how defacing websites begin. When people can put political ideologies, get access to a website, and then scrap the page and then just leave their label. This was hacked by Kula and his gang. I don't know if Kula has come today. Kula is here today. All right, so we have actually edited and then saved the main, that is the index.php, that is the actual retro website. So this is retro.php. The moment we launch this again, we should get a shell. That is what we expect. So just going to listen on this port. Can just drive this here. So we see that we have that, and then run the website. Now, if we do, we see that yes, it is stuck, and then we have our initial foothold onto the website. So we have access now. We can also remember that
before you keep on going for asking, can you highlight or give us a short summary of the vulnerabilities that you've encountered so far? What were the major things that you've seen so far in the machine we are working on? Then we
all
can
right.
move.
So thanks, cyber admin. So initially, we just scanned this website. We have the directories that we just use GoBuster to enumerate, and then we saw a web page that is a website called Retro. Now, Retro here is run by these technologies we have. It is a WordPress website, and it's just basically comments about games and movies from the past. Now, when just looking at the post that is on this website, we see that it is owned by a user called Wade. Now, Wade is a fan of this actual book called Ready Player One. And this book is now a movie, so check it out. It's cool. Now, Ready Player One is his favorite movie, and then he left a comment there, leaving a note for myself. Probably when this page was in development phase, that he could put a comment in there and probably had forgotten to just take it off. So the spelling is quite trivial. It might be a character or his favorite character in the book that he had to just spell it in here so that he can quickly access it. Now, the issue of convenience to end users becomes an issue with security. We usually sacrifice convenience for security. Now, this is poor. He had forgotten, because here we are all humans, that he put something sensitive on his webpage, which is now in production. That is, it is public. Everyone can access now. So that is one bad judgment from Wade. And now we took this credential and then logged in to his WordPress account. Now, with the inside of WordPress, we see that the WordPress is also the WordPress version is actually out of date. It is running WordPress 5.3. So that is also out of date. That means he's not regularly updating his software stack. Now we were able, because we had access as Wade, now we are the admin of the page, we are able to just manipulate or change or insert our own malicious code into the template, WordPress template, and then we are able to get a foothold onto the server and on which Wade is running. So that is what we've done so
Thank you.
far.
That's
you.
enough and well understood. So we can
Great.
move on to see what's next we can find on this machine.
Yeah, thanks. So the next thing is, wait, we have a valid user credential. We are able to log in to the WordPress instance or the IIS server that is running here. But what about this one? This is also RDP, that is port 3389. So how can we just, users don't change their passwords often. They use their WhatsApp account. If there is an activation code, they use that same PIN for their bank account. If there is a password for social media, Facebook, they will use the same thing for Twitter, for Snapchat. So we can just attempt credential spraying here. That means we're going to use the same credentials that we have to test for other services and see if Wade is using that same credential for other services too. Remember, we have an initial foothold. So this is Remna. Remna is used for RDP. So you can check it out if you don't know about Remna now. The password for his website was Parsival. So that is what we used initially. So the password, and then we click on OK. Now this is going to establish an RDP session. So basically we see that we have been logged in to this instance, and then we have a graphical user interface. So we are on the Windows box, and this looks like a Windows server. That is what we saw from port 80. So now we've seen this. We can begin in initial enumeration. Let's see what we have. So we can go about, let's see what users are on this PC, on this Windows server. And there are 3 users here. There's like the general public, which is default, administrator, and then Wade. Okay, that is cool. If you're interested in flags, this is a user flag that you might submit to try hack me. And we can look at what version of operating system are we running? What kind of system do we have? We're all familiar with Windows, and then we can see it is a 64-bit architecture running with this spec and all that. That is a Windows Server 2016 standard version. So we are collecting information. We are just getting situational awareness. Where are we? What kind of privileges do we have? That is another important thing to look at. So let's launch CMD to be able to run commands. Let's see what we have access to as user Wade. Basically, when you say, let's see, can we even increase the size of this? Great. So if we say, who are we as a user? Yeah, we are logged on as Wade on RetroWeb. That's the name, that is the host name. Yeah. And what privileges, what do we have access to? What can we do on this box? We check that, and then we see that we don't have enough privileges here. Okay, that's fine. That means we should look at another way of getting access to an account or a service that has higher privileges. There is also something, looking at this in the recycle bin, there is something up in here, which is interesting. That looks like an application. Okay, that's cool. We look at applications that are also running. There is Microsoft Web Platform. installer. Probably that is what he used to set up his website. And because it's a web server, probably there is a web server running. Yeah, of course, Active Directory and all that. So you think about along those lines. So there are two browsers in here. Chrome doesn't come by default. But when you look at the browser, we see something interesting. So we haven't got a default browser yet. Okay, let's use this as default. Cool. Now, there is something interesting here. There is a CV 2019 and then -1388. What is this about? Another important thing of gathering information is looking at users' browsing history, looking at their bookmarks. What have they been looking at? This has been bookmarked. What have they been doing on their computer and all that? So this is something that you should do to get more insight when you get access to a target. Look at what the player has been doing, what have they been reading and all that. So it looks like this is a CV that probably he knows, user Wade knows that his system is vulnerable to. So he might try to find solutions and how to secure that. So that's to give us another clue of how to look at this vulnerability and then how to exploit it. There is also indication of he adding posts to his website. So that is genuine information. Now, because this box is cut off from the internet, we can't have access. Like we can't go to the internet on this. So we can just put our remnant back in the box and then come to our own machine and see what this CV is about and if we can exploit this. So that is CV 2019 1388. I'm sure that is what we just saw. Now, this CV actually is actually a bug that let's look at the GitHub ones. Yeah, it is actually a bug in UAC. UAC is Windows user account control mechanism. So basically, when you're trying to run an application, install an application for the first time, or you need to run an application with higher privileges, Windows will actually show you a pop-up, basically, that tells you, hey, you're trying to run this application with a higher privilege, provide credentials to it. If you're running it as an administrator, what is your password before it allows you to do that? So that is what is actually happening here. So basically that is the vulnerability that exists there that we are trying to take advantage of. So when you read about this CV, it is saying that this CV exploits tends to abuse UAC, that is Windows, that's the user account control certificate dialog box, to execute the certificate issuer link as an NT authority user. And it can open a web browser under the NT authority, and then it will prompt you when we execute probably like a command prompt or PowerShell, we execute it as NT authority. So this is how to just run that. So basically that gives us an idea that, okay, so if there is any application, and remember, when we just saw Wade's system, we find out that in the recycle bin that there is this application. So probably this was his test that he used. So we can restore the application and try to go through the process of exploiting this. So when you tend to run the application, as an administrator, we can just click more per the instruction, show the certificate from the certificate authority, that's the CA. We see the CA as VeriSign. So when we click this VeriSign, it should open a browser. Now, this is the bug that was solved initially that the creator of the books gave allusion to from the beginning, that it has been fixed. So this is no longer a legit way. So basically, when we click this, we should have seen the list of browsers on this application, on this box, which is the Chrome and then Internet Explorer. Then we could have just clicked on one of those browsers and then it will open a page. It will tend to go to this website. It wouldn't be able to do that. But then we can save that web page, that cannot load web page. And then we can just go to our System32 and launch command prompt. And when we launch command prompt, because we try to open this as an administrator, it will open command prompt as an administrator. And when we launch it, we will have access as NT authority. So that is something that's was one way that you could have taken to exploit this box, which has been solved. So it is not possible. I would like to just even show you that vulnerability too quick. It wouldn't take a lot of time. So this is how it is being exploited. So I'm playing this YouTube video. Let me just screen forward. This is when it's just trying to get the same file that we have. So bear with me, stay with me. My internet is terrible. So this is the same application that this user has, saving it on the desktop. We already had that. We just restored ours from the recycle bin. So this is the file. Now you can watch how this could have been exploited. So unblocking the security on this application, right click, you run as an administrator. You click on show details. You click on show more information about this publisher. You click on the CA, that is a certificate by the issuer. The moment you click on it, which we did, it should have opened a browser. So we could have selected any of the browsers that you have. Now this page, we just save this page. So file, save as. Now in saving this, we just get this error, that is the crash. We ignore this error, and then with the file name, we just navigate to our drive C, Windows, System32, and then backslash ***. That means like a wildcard for everything in there. Now you just scroll down and then you just navigate CMD command prompt. The moment you select command prompt or open command prompt from there, you'll see that you have administrator access and then you are actually NT authority. So basically that could have been, if you solved this at first, you could have just found that easy way of just exploiting this vulnerability. So that rules CVE 2019-1388 out. We can't use that to exploit this box. Now, we move on to find, you always have to find an extra way of finding the vulnerabilities in there and then find the alternative way of breaking the box. Remember, we already had root access here from the box. So probably we could have just also go through this route, but I had to show you the earlier version. So we've already done that part where we just have to run the main page and then get our callback. So when we run our index file, we see that the web page is hung. So we have our shell back. So who are we on this box now? That is the ISS app pool. So that is a service account now. So with this service account, do we have any extra or any new privileges that we're able to do that the user weight doesn't have access to? Sorry. So we run a quick who am I, and then we see what privileges that we have on this box. And then we see with that, by the number, we had only 2 privileges as weight when we used the graphical user interface to log in through RDP. Yeah, sorry. So now looking at this, we have much more privileges. Now, important and the most interesting one of this is that we know that when we see this, then we'll be thinking about cooking potatoes. Shout outs to Cook Potato. I hope you're out there and doing great, buddy. So set impertinent privilege, that comes the potatoes. We just drop a potato on its head and then it is able to impersonate the service account that is NT authority, and probably we might just find a way to just escalate our privileges. So that is one way to just go about this. So how do we do that? So we navigate to any directory where we have control or full access to, where we can read, write, and execute files to. One of my favorite places is going to the public directory. All right. Now we can just transfer our malicious applications in here using, I like using curl. So use curl to just grab stuff. So basically before, what am I going to transfer? I need potatoes, but then which of the potatoes is suited for this? Now remember, it depends on the architecture that you're running. So if I run system info, we already found out that, yeah, we are on a Windows Server 2016 with 64-bit architecture. So we know how to create our malicious files. That is this. So on Windows 2016, which of the potatoes? There are a lot of potatoes: God potato, juicy potato, a lot of the potatoes out there, good potato, and all that. So how do we know which one use? You can just do a quick Google search and then you find which one is appropriate or works on this version of operating system that we have. But mainly, you should know that for this, for every for machines that are compute systems that are like Windows 10 with build 1809, you should use a Rogue Potato. And Rogue Potato works for that systems. And then when it's a Windows Server, that is Windows Server 2019. Now, when any of this, we have anything that is less than Windows Server 2019, that is when you go for Juicy Potato will just work very good with anything that is like a system that is below Windows Server 2019. And then anything that is below Windows 10 version 1809. So we have to get Juicy Potato. We have to get, let's get that first. So let's get that first. I already have that Juicy Potato. I already have that on my system somewhere. Let me just find it to if I can spell. Let me see. It should be. Let me just see. Let me just do it. A guesswork. It should be. It should be my staging. Staging. Yeah. All right. So I have potato here. Great. We should also now when you execute this, it runs with a program. So we have to give it a file. The file that we have to feed Juicy Potato will be a reverse shell. So a reverse TCP shell. We can use MSM Venom to just create that. So we need a reverse TCP shell. So we can just use that MSF Venom. And we Windows. Yes, it is a 64-bit architecture. Yes, and then let's give me a reverse shell. Yeah, so that should be good. And what is my local IP? That is my local host. Listen on this port. and then we just save it as a file type and executable, and then we output it. Those will be the output file. So ref shell 666, I think that is too long. rs666.exe. All right, so we generate these files, we just transfer it onto our target box, and then we can execute this juicy potato to give us a reverse shell where we'll be listening on port 666. So that is what you're doing. And because we discovered that we have SE impersonate privileges on this box. So that is why we're doing what we're doing now. Okay, so our file is done. We should have our executable file, that is our reverse shell, and then juicy potato to just transfer. So basically, I'm just going to run a Python server here to just stage it here. And then when I get on the box, I can just try to get it from myself. All right, so I can use PowerShell here. We have kill. My IP is right there. And I'm hosting it on port 80, so no need to specify that. So what are the name of the files? Let me just bring this. So I have juicy potato. I'm too lazy to type for this. All right, so this here, we output or save it as, that is a long name. So let's say j.exe. All right, so that should be able to get that. Do we have it? Great, so we have j.exe, and I'll do same for my reverse shell. So reverse shell, I think I just saved it as rs666.exe, and then we can just save it as, it can just be an a reverse shell, r.exe. That should be fine. But I know the port is 666, so we're good. So when we do this, now we have this file and then that file. So we should be good. So we have the files now. So how do we execute this? Basically, when we just try executing exe, we can just, our juicy potato, we can see the use case up in here. So these are the mandatory arguments that we have to pass to juicy potato. So we can just do that with, so this is the syntax. So let's say you're running j.exe, that's juicy potato, and L for which port are we listening on? We set our port to 666. And what program are we executing with it? The program is our malicious file that we transferred, which is our MS7 Venom executable reverse shell, which I saved as r.exe. Okay, great. And T for create process call. So we're going to create a process that is going to spawn our reverse shell. So whatever processes that it might work with, probably there might be a couple of them. We don't know. We just say a wildcard. Wildcard is anything. And what else can we do? Okay, so for this, we're going to invoke the class ID. So class ID basically, the class ID, how do I explain this? It's basically a reference to any application on a Windows system. So basically, they are like, it is a hex value, a 24 bits hex value that is quoted in like, that is in curly brackets, often represented. Now, normally when you go to your registry, you might see these values in your HKey root access. Now, how do we know, or how do we get this? So basically, it gives us even an indication, an example. This is how they look like. But what do they do? So basically, for example, when you visit any website And then the website tells you, Windows tells you, hey, update your ActiveX or any other program that you have on your machine. Now, your browser automatically will be able to detect the version of the software that you're using by referencing its class ID. So basically, the class ID is like a unique identifier for applications on a system. So what we have to do is find a class identifier for the box that we are on. This is a Windows server. So let's see if, let's see, what is a class ID for Windows server? So like, let's say anything on Windows, what 2016? Let's see if we can get any of such examples. Okay, so let's look at this. The first, it's GitHub. Yeah, it should be good. So OHPE, okay, this guy created the juicy potato that we're using. Like, so it's basically a good resource because we're getting it from source. So we go to GitHub, pardon my slow internet, and these are class IDs for various Windows boxes and then how to execute them with a juicy potato. So when you look at what we have is Windows Server 2016 standard. So we click on that and then pick any class ID. So these are examples of class IDs for any of the services running on the Windows box. So this is XBL Game Save. I'm guessing is that an Xbox Game Save feature. We just copy any of the class identifier because that is a service that is running on this Windows Server 2016 version. So we grab that and then we go and then paste it in here. Now, before I do this, I have to remind you, because this is more of command prompts, I'm still using PowerShell. You might not get a shell, which actually is the case when I first ran that. So we just jump back to command prompts and then just use that to execute the file. It tends to be weird, and then you don't get a recall back because of the shell that we used. So we jump back to CMD and then write the whole script again, which is very exciting to do, I guess. So we're listening on port 666 and the program we are executing with. I can just let you see what we have here again. So that is our reverse shell juicy potato, and our shell just died on us. So what you do is we just go and then, oh yeah, I think this is expiring. Thank goodness it is not. We can just run this again and then we should get our connection back. So that is good, no problem. We should navigate to the public directory. And then let's see if we still have our malicious files there. Great, we're good. So we can go ahead and now execute our payload and then see if we get a reverse shell that gives us probably an empty authority shell. The name of our program is r.exe. That is our executable file from MS Venom. T is for spawning processes, creating processes. We use a wildcard, say any process that might choose to run, we are okay with that. And this is the class ID that we copied. I hope it is still in my buffer. Great. So we have that, but we have to listen. So probably, let me just open a terminal down here. Why not? So we can see if we get a callback right here. So I'll wrap. Let's cut listen on this port. Now we're listening on 666. All right, so let's pump this away and then see if we did the right thing. Now it is testing, pushing this class ID to our port, and then voila, we see the directory being spawned. That is command prompts being spawned from this directory. That is always good news. So who am I? Like, who are we now? Because originally we were just ISS and then output, that is the service running the web server. But who are we now? We see that we are NT authority. That means we were able to escalate the set impersonate privilege that the web server service account was running. So we're basically NT authority. And NT authority means, yeah, we can do bad stuff. For example, we can just add users. Let's add users. So let's say BTS, buy time session. Yeah, and then add a password. And password is password. That is a terrible password that you should never do or use. And then we can say add. Are we able to add a user to a system? That means we have full control. And that is saying, yeah. So basically, if we say we look at the users on this computer right now, we can see that we've added another user. We should, but it is not even showing. Yeah, probably I know why. Now we can just add our user, let's local group to the administrator. So we can just make BTS an administrator by adding it to the administrator's user group, and BTS is the name of the user. And are we able to do that? Yes, we're able to do that. Why not even also just go ahead and then make this guy part of, gets even remote access just like Wade does. So basically, we have been able to pound this machine full time, and that is actually for people who have RDP access. And we've been able to do that. So basically, we should be able to just even try and then see if it is possible. Now we can log out as Wade and see if we can sign in as BTS with the password. And password, that is a terrible credential to use. And look, we have added a backdoor account. So basically we can log in anytime that we just need to, for whatever reason. Now, when you look at this, we see that which user are we? We will be BTS. This looks terrible. Great. And let's see, who am I? Yeah, we are BTS. So basically, that is terrible. We've been able to get full access to this system. But then there is also one thing that I want you to be aware of, that this box can also be routed in another way that is more of a kernel or low-level exploits. So I'm just going to do that quickly, and then we can just open the floor for questions. Now, when you just Google this version of Windows that we are running now, Windows Server 2016, let's say exploits. There's a list from SecWiki that gives you a list of vulnerabilities that is affecting Windows versions. I think we should just dig deeper. Let's say SecWiki. If you can hear me, I'm calling on you. All right, so these are a list of kernel exploits that you may find. And you might see that the 2016 version is also vulnerable to kernel exploits. And the CV allocated to it is actually 2017, was discovered in 2017. So CV 2017, 0213. So this kernel exploit actually is basically the operating system itself has bugs in it where people are able to just escalate privileges from that low level and then become the highest authority on the box. Now, when you look at this, when you read this, it will tell you that there's the explanation is always there. I can just send it to the link for you guys to just check it out. But basically, we can just get this file. We can download it and then we can just run it on the box and then spawn it and then just see how that is working. So let me just log out of this because I've already added BTS to be an administrator on this box. We can just basically confirm before I just zoom out. Yeah, let's say let's local group administrators. Yeah, our user is now an administrator on this box. So that is done and dusted. We can just, that is post-compromise. We might just add persistence so that even when the admin changes his password or something, we can just log back as another user with the highest privilege on this. So let's sign out from BTS, log in as Wade, and come in and then exploit it using the kernel exploits because already Wade is just a low-level user, not an admin. So we can just do that. Password, I hope I remember. Parzival, something. Hopefully I get it. Okay, great. So this is Wade. And I hope I have downloaded the kernel exploits. Yeah, that is good. So just copy it to this directory. Let me just open this down here. Let's just move the kernel exploits that is should be in my downloads directory. What is the name of the file? CV something. Yeah, that's great. That's the file. It is a zip file. We just unzip it. And because we are still in the same directory, the terminal, which I am just running this, I am just saving my website. I can basically access this from here. So this is Wade, Wade's account. Wade is just a normal user. You can just confirm that just as we did at first. Let me just make this visible for you guys to see. Wade is a nobody. And he has the minimal privileges on the box. So what I'm going to do is to bring, this is my IP. Basically, I'm serving that. That means it is like a web server that I am hosting here so that I'll be able to transfer files onto the target. So this is the executable. So I download this and then Windows should be able to see that this is a bad file. Yeah, it can help my computer. Yeah, I know. It won't, I promise. So I keep this file. And then when you execute the file, now, whenever you are installing anything, I'm sure many of us Windows users have seen this over and over again. Are you sure you want to run this from an unknown publisher? I know most of us always click yes, run. Yeah, so try to be very careful out there, guys, when installing anything. So this is Wade with these privileges. We execute this, and then a lot of nasty stuff will happen. Now we just executed, and then we are seeing another CMD command prompt here. And what is that telling us? What is this? We see up in here. Let me just make this visible for you guys to just see this clearly. And how do you make this big? Should be the smallest one. That's terrible, bad idea. So let me just fumble with this. And we see that after running that exploit, we just have like, it just pounds a shell. And then we see that it is administrator. And then basically we are, who are we right here on this box after running this kernel exploit? We know that it has exploited the actual operating system itself. That is the OS running on this, which is Windows Server 2016 at the core of it, and then escalated our privileges. So this has been like 3 ways of just solving the same box. When I was trying this out, I struggled a lot. I thought it took a long time to figure this out. And I'm glad to just show this to you guys and go back and then have fun basically with this. Try to solve it on your own. And then if there are any questions, please do ask. This video will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. When you go to YouTube, just try and then look at Buy Time Sessions. There are videos, our weekly videos are uploaded out there. If you have questions, please leave your comments down there. We'll appreciate that very much. And as you say, thank you. This is your root file that you can just open with type, and then you can just read the file. Those who are just interested in the flags to submit for points on TryHackMe. Yeah, that is it. So thank you for being with me. It's been great. I know you guys have been quiet, but I know you are listening. Now it is a good chance to ask questions, and I am happy to answer them. Shout outs to everybody that joined, Kula and everybody. Hey, what's up?
Today has actually been a great session, and I actually enjoyed it. Like personally, I actually enjoyed this session because he managed to demonstrate 3 different ways that same machine could be exploited, and that is something I would say kudos to you. You really did well within time too, when you didn't spend much time on everything. And though you're 9 minutes behind, I still think it's good because we started late, 10 minutes after the 7 o'clock. So that's really in the time scope, and that's good. Please, if you have any question for Kowalski, this is the time for you to ask. Any confusion, anything you think you want to ask Kowalski, this is your time to shine. Please go ahead and ask him. We'll be glad to help you explain everything to the core. It's an open floor. All participants, you can unmute yourself, ask your question, anything you want him to clarify. I'm sure he'll be glad to do that.
Yeah, I have a
Oh,
question.
yeah, fine. Okay, that's good. Go ahead.
You were talking about the juicy potato and the other one. Please, can you go over again so that I get it very well?
Yes.